We loved their silver screen glamour, but were golden age Hollywood legends hiding a dark, narcissistic truth behind those famous smiles. Beyond the studio magic lay extreme ego, relentless control, and secret behavior that shattered lives. Tonight, we expose the shocking realities behind the stars you grew up admiring. Subscribe now as we reveal the hidden obsession of Walt Disney, Frank Sinatra, and more. The bittersweet portrait of Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe remains the ultimate icon of Hollywood's golden age, yet behind that dazzling smile lay a tragic tug-of-war between profound vulnerability and an absolute need for control. To the directors and crews who worked alongside her, Marilyn was notorious for showing up hours late, flubbing simple lines and demanding endless retakes until a scene felt right to her. To the outside world, this looked like the diva behavior of an entitled superstar. In truth, however, her notorious perfectionism stemmed from an overwhelming anxiety and a deeply rooted fear of inadequacy. Yet regardless of the cause, the reality remained unchanged. Hundreds of hard-working crew members were forced to put their lives on hold, endlessly catering to the emotional turmoil of one woman. Marilyn was a living paradox. The fragile victim crying out for protection and the demanding star wielding total power over the set were not two different people, they coexisted within the very same legendary figure. She used her delays not out of malice but as a desperate shield to gain control over a high-pressure world that constantly threatened to consume her. It is precisely this poignant contradiction, the fragile soul trapped inside the grand Hollywood myth, that makes Marilyn Monroe so deeply human, enduringly fascinating, and unforgettable to generations of movie lovers. The unrivaled aura of Frank Sinatra. Frank Sinatra never needed an announcement. When entering a room, the entire atmosphere shifted the moment he walked through the door. Respect was not merely preferred in his presence, it was an unconditional requirement. His iconic nickname, the Chairman of the Board, captured far more than his status in the music industry. It defined how he commanded the world around him. Sinatra possessed an uncanny ability to make people feel uniquely shielded under his wing, only to instill deep apprehension the very next moment. Everything hinged on a single unwritten rule: the king must never be humiliated. In mid-century America, Sinatra wielded influence that transcended his legendary voice. He was a master of loyalty and fear, cultivating an aura of absolute authority that commanded reverence from Hollywood elite politicians and everyday fans alike. To cross him meant instant exile, but to earn his favor was to stand in the warmest spotlight in the world. He was far more than a crooner. He was an institution of American culture. This breathtaking duality, a protector with an iron fist, an untouchable king who demanded utter devotion, is precisely why Frank Sinatra remains the undisputed monarch of American entertainment, forever etched in the hearts of those who lived through his reign. The dark obsession of Alfred Hitchcock. Long before it became his most troubling controversy, Total Control was Alfred Hitchcock's ultimate artistic signature. As the master architect of cinematic suspense, Hitchcock meticulously pre-planned every camera angle, every shadow, and every movement on set. Yet his obsession extended far beyond the lens. He actively shaped the public personas, wardrobes, and private lives of his leading ladies. Most unsettling of all, his relentless desire for manipulation rarely stopped when the cameras ceased rolling. The most painful illustration of this was his complex, dark relationship with Tippi Hedren during the filming of The Birds and Marnie. To Hitchcock, his icy blonde muses were not merely actresses to direct, but creations to possess. What began as a director's uncompromising vision eventually blurred into a troubling psychological fixation, one that exacted a heavy emotional toll on the women who brought his masterpieces to life. Hitchcock spent a lifetime orchestrating fear for audiences worldwide, yet those closest to him knew that the deepest tension existed behind the scenes. This sharp duality, the genius auteur who redefined American cinema versus the controlling tyrant in the shadows, remains one of classic Hollywood's most captivating and tragic legacies. The sovereign glamour of Elizabeth Taylor. When Elizabeth Taylor secured her historic million-dollar contract for Cleopatra, she became the ultimate symbol of Hollywood's lavish excess. Yet the movie itself was soon eclipsed by her larger-than-life presence. Her extravagant demands and passionate, tumultuous romance with co-star Richard Burton transformed the Rome movie set into a worldwide spectacle. While the intense media frenzy would have crushed a lesser star, Taylor refused to retreat. Instead, she navigated the relentless machinery of fame with the supreme grace of born royalty, turning every whisper into headline news. During an era when the studio system was unraveling, Liz Taylor rewrote the rules of stardom. She recognized her own unprecedented cultural power and refused to apologize for it. The world watched her every move, her breathtaking jewels, her fiery loves, her bold choices, not simply out of curiosity, but because Hollywood had conditioned the public to view the personal desires of Elizabeth Taylor as momentous historical events. She was far more than a dazzling silver screen beauty. She was the reigning queen of a bygone cinematic age. Her ability to command absolute fascination proved that in the grand theater of mid-century American pop culture, nobody captivated the public imagination quite like Liz Taylor. The uncompromising vision of Walt Disney. To millions of Americans, Uncle Walt was the warm, beloved storyteller who invited families into a world of pure imagination every Sunday evening. Yet behind that gentle television persona stood a fiercely driven founder who demanded absolute loyalty to his creative vision and reacted with bitter resentment whenever his authority was challenged. The illusion of the idyllic studio was shattered during the bitter 1941 animators' strike. That painful labor rift exposed deep cracks in the myth of the benevolent genius. For Walt, the studio was not merely a business. It was a deeply personal extension of his very soul. Consequently, when his artists unionized and demanded fair credit and wages, Walt did not see a standard workplace dispute. He took it as a heartbreaking personal betrayal by the very people he considered family. When a founder's identity becomes entirely fused with his company, any critique of the workplace culture feels like a direct attack on the man himself. Walt Disney built an empire of joy that shaped American childhood, but maintaining that magic required an iron willpower and an unyielding expectation of devotion. This profound tension between the heartwarming dreamer the nation adored and the unbending patriarch who built the kingdom remains one of the most compelling chapters in the history of American entertainment. The Magnificent Rebel, Marlon Brando. Marlon Brando did not simply act. He shattered the old rules of Hollywood and rebuilt them entirely in his own image. His raw, revolutionary talent provided all the proof he needed that his artistic instincts outweighed any script studio executive or director's command. After redefining screen performance forever in mid-century masterpieces like A Streetcar Named Desire and On the Waterfront, Brando possessed a level of power unheard of in American cinema. Directors routinely tolerated erratic behavior that would have ruined any other actor's career. Most famously, his steadfast refusal to memorize dialogue, preferring instead to read lines off hidden cue cards, coffee cups, or even fellow actors' clothing. To Brando, this was no mere laziness. He insisted it kept his reactions genuinely spontaneous and real. Yet the central paradox of Brando lay in his deep-seated disdain for the very stardom that sustained him. He openly mocked the Hollywood star machine, treating the glitz and glamour of fame with bitter contempt, even as he used its immense privileges to bend the entire industry to his every whim. He fought the system fiercely, yet he was the only man capable of forcing that system to its knees. Brando remained cinema's ultimate anti-hero, a moody, brilliant artist who loathed the pedestal he was placed upon, yet used his undisputed genius to forever transform the landscape of American acting for generations to come. The unforgiving fire of Bette Davis conflict was not a distraction for Bette Davis. It was the very fuel that ignited her legendary art. She fought everyone over everything, wearing her reputation for being difficult, not as a flaw, but as a hard-won badge of artistic honor. In a golden era when the studio system expected actresses to be passive, pleasant, and obedient, Davis was a force of nature. She famously sued Warner Bros. In the 1930s for forcing her into mediocre roles, risking her entire livelihood to demand artistic freedom. Though she technically lost the court case, her relentless stubbornness permanently shifted the balance of power, expanding what female stars could demand from the powerful men running Hollywood. Davis refused to fit into the conventional mold of the glamorous starlet. She embraced unsympathetic, complex characters in classics like Of Human Bondage and All About Eve, proving that raw truth on screen mattered far more than looking pretty. She never asked Hollywood to find her agreeable or easy to work with. She demanded that they respect her craft and admit that she was right all along. She was a trailblazer who turned friction into brilliant drama, earning 2 Academy Awards and the lifelong reverence of moviegoers. Bette Davis proved that a woman's fierceness, uncompromising integrity, and refusal to surrender could redefine American cinema forever. The unyielding survival of Joan Crawford. Joan Crawford's stardom was a masterclass in relentless self-engineering. Unlike stars who relied on effortless natural charm, Crawford possessed a brilliant, calculating intellect that allowed her to reinvent her image whenever the shifting tides of public taste demanded it. From her early days as a 1920s jazz-age flapper to her dramatic transformation into an Oscar-winning 1940s powerhouse in Mildred Pierce, Crawford viewed image control not as vanity but as pure survival. She understood the cold, unforgiving reality of the studio system. Hollywood could build a woman up overnight and erase her just as quickly the moment she showed signs of aging or fading popularity. Her answer to that constant threat was total, absolute domination over her public life. She meticulously controlled every photograph released to the press, choreographed every grand entrance into a room, and carefully managed every personal relationship within her reach. Nothing was left to chance. She answered mountains of fan mail, personally maintained her signature shoulder-padded silhouette with iron discipline, and proved that longevity in show business was a battle to be won. Crawford was the ultimate self-made queen of the silver screen, a woman who stared down the brutal shelf life imposed on Hollywood actresses and refused to vanish. Her fiercely guarded legacy remains an enduring symbol of ambition, sheer willpower, and the relentless pursuit of perfection in American cinema history. Zsa Zsa Gabor, the pioneer of being famous for being famous. Long before reality TV or modern social media ever existed, Zsa Zsa Gabor had already mastered the art of turning her own name into a powerhouse brand. She was the original pioneer of the famous for being famous phenomenon that eventually reshaped American pop culture and Hollywood royalty. Her absolute greatest and most enduring role was never on the silver screen. It was simply playing Zsa Zsa. She was the ultimate glamour queen, dripping in diamonds, sporting signature platinum curls, and armed with a quick-witted repertoire of memorable sound bites. Gabor viewed public attention not just as a perk, but as a genuine form of power. With an extraordinary instinct for media relations, she always knew precisely when to drop a shocking quote to guarantee her face stayed plastered across front-page headlines nationwide. Nowhere was this talent clearer than in her legendary love life. The former Miss Hungary transformed her 9 marriages, including her high-profile union with hotel tycoon Conrad Hilton, into an ongoing real-life soap opera that kept the entire nation completely spellbound. Instead of shying away from scandal, she weaponized her highly publicized weddings and multi-million-dollar divorces to maintain an unshakable hold on the spotlight for decades. Zsa Zsa Gabor was so much more than just a glamorous celebrity. She was an unforgettable icon, a brilliant master of self-promotion, and a vivid symbol of old-school Hollywood splendor. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new videos. See you in the next one.